Hello friends, my name is McKenna and welcome to Knit Between the Lines, a knitting podcast. This is a podcast where I talk about what I'm knitting, what I'm spinning on, and my love for other fiber arts. So grab whatever project you're working on and let's get into it. Okay, so let's get into my whips first because I have something pretty exciting to share with you guys. And there's a bean, stop. Say hello to everyone. Oh, Choco baby. Anyway, like I said, let's get into whips. My two longest outstanding whips first, and then we can get into the new one. So let's talk about my Rhue sweater for my husband, Cameron. So the last time I showed this to you guys, I had just finished the color work across like the chest and midsection. I have since completed the whole body and just need to do the sleeves and the collar. Woo, back it up. Oh, it looks so good. I love how dynamic this color work motif is. I feel like it's so graphic and fun, and I love that the bottom is a different color. But super great. I've had him try it on a few times now to check the length and the fit, and so far we're doing pretty well. I did knit the body an inch shorter. Well, that's not true. So what I did was, Cameron is not a cropped sweater girly. Most men are not, I feel. So I asked him when we tried it on about where he'd want it to hit on his body. And he said he wanted about like the top of his pocket on his jeans, which is roughly about 18 inches from the underarm. I opted to only knit 17 inches because I do anticipate this growing while blocking. It's superwash merino and just the weight of the garment in general will cause it to kind of grow in length. Worst case scenario, if it's still a little too short, I will just go back in and add another inch to the body. It's super easy because it's knit from the top down, so I can just rip out the ribbing, put in my needles, and then just knit another inch and then do the ribbing again. So it wouldn't be too much of an inconvenience to do that. I was a little worried that I might run out of yarn, but I have so much left. I still have, I think, 2 whole skeins of the Forest Floor and the woolly, both from Explorer Knits. So I should have plenty of yarn because I literally just had the sleeves to do and then picking up for the collar. So it won't take me any time at all. I honestly thought I would have this finished by now, but I got a little excited about one of the swatches I showed you guys last episode and have since casted on that sweater and pretty much have only worked on that sweater. Yeah, I think honestly, because there is quite a bit of color work from the chest down into the midsection, I kind of needed a break from the color work because this is not a very super portable project when you're not in just the straight stockinette, no color work sections. So I casted on the new project in order to bring something to knit night that wasn't socks, and also I was excited about the yarn, I was excited about the pattern, and it was something for me. And I'm inherently a selfish knitter generally, so I have told myself that I am not allowed to cast on any more projects until I finish his sweater because he is super excited about it. He really wants to wear it, especially because winter is coming to an end and he really would like to wear it before the winter is over. Even if I don't get it finished this winter, it'll be ready for him to wear in the fall and winter of this coming year in 2025. So he's super excited about it. I'm super excited about it. I just have to get these sleeves going and the collar and then it should be done. I think he's gonna love it. I think he's gonna look really good in it and he's super knit worthy. So I'm really glad that I could get this on the needles for him. My other longest outstanding whip that I have worked on recently is my Attune shawl by Andrea Mowry. I have it held in this super cute over-dyed quilted project bag. I got it in my Haley Bailey advent calendar that was inspired by Mount Hood here in Portland, Oregon. And one of the things that was included in the advent calendar is this project bag, which is made from a quilt that was rescued from a thrift store and then over-dyed and then sewn into this awesome like bucket bag style project bag, and I really love it. It's a really good size, especially as the shawl grows it will get larger and I have plenty of room for it to grow. So I've not made much progress on this since I last talked to you guys, just because I have been super inspired by my most recent cast on. So there isn't much to show, but I did put it on a larger cable, and I have put some rows into it so we can kind of now see the real size, mostly, that we have so far. And I think it looks so good. This is the wrong side, and then this is the right side. I think it looks really good. I love how the striping is looking. I mentioned last time I talked about this project that I ended up ripping it out. It wasn't giving the gradient that I was expecting when I cast it on the project. Also, the lighting may change because the clouds are moving in and out, so I apologize if the lighting is a little wonky, and I apologize for the glare in my glasses as well. But yeah, so I ripped it out, I recasted it on, and I started striping everything, and I am loving it, you guys. I think I just underestimated how long a shawl takes, especially when it's knit on fingering weight and sport weight yarn. It takes a long time, and it's a lot of stitches. So I am just kind of chugging along on it. I really do enjoy it, and I think it'll be a great shawl to kind of wrap up in, especially in the fall and even in the spring. I do hope to get it done soon because I really do love it, and I can't wait to kind of snuggle up in it. But here she is. As a reminder, the yarn that I'm using, my main color is the Malabrigo sock in the colorway Jasmine. It's focusing on my face, there we go. Perfect. And then the colors that I chose for Spincycle, I only have a little ball of it right now for the first color, but the first one, boo, 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 don't focus on me, focus on, there we go, is Lathe, and they're dyed in the wool. I obviously have the rest of the skein. This was just what I tore out originally. I had used quite a bit of it because it was just the Lathe and the Malabrigo. So I'm still kind of working through that little chunk of yarn. And then I have Family Jewels. Okay, there we go. This is Family Jewels. Beautiful. And then finally we have the Meadows. The skin's a little wonky. There we go. And we have the Meadows. This is probably my favorite skein that I've chosen for this shawl, if we're being honest. So again, super excited about this. Just haven't been putting a lot of time into it because it's very thin yarn and it's a lot of stitches. But this is just kind of a grab when I want some texture in my life kind of project. So, but really, really loving it. Can't wait for it to be finished. And yeah, shawl knitting just takes a while. Okay, and the next work in progress that I want to chat with you guys is a new cast on. I showed you guys the swatch, or this was one of the swatches I showed you guys last episode, and I was just so excited with how the yarn looked in the swatch that I pretty much casted it on immediately, and that is the Felix Pullover by Christoffers. And when I tell you guys that this has been like the only project I've worked on in the last like 2 or 3 weeks, I'm actually not joking, because look at this. Like, I gotta back up. Like seriously, like I just have essentially a couple rows left of the sleeve and then the cuff and it's done. Like, I have been working on this constantly. Super lovely. The camera's definitely blowing it out a little bit, but you can see that variegation really, really well in the yarn. You can see the little lace, kind of. It's kind of hard to see with how dark the fabric is, but once it's blocked, these little eyelet holes will open up. But I have literally not worked on anything else since I cast it on this project. The yarn is gorgeous. It is Freshwater Mussels by Explorer Knits, and it was from their farmers market collection that they did recently. And I'm holding it double with Knitting for Olives Soft Silk Mohair in Deep Petroleum Blue. The Felix Pullover, I believe, is for a Aran weight yarn. So I'm using EKF's Carlsbad worsted and then holding it together with the mohair to achieve that Aran gauge. And it is so addicting. Like, I don't think I've knit a sweater so fast in my life. Like, I understand the allure now of worsted weight projects, because I can tell you that I'm already planning another Felix Pullover with also, you know, Explorer Knits, because they just recently re-dyed their Icelandic collection from 2023, and I found Explorer Knits right after that collection was like finished, and I was super sad because I was obsessed with their Stroker Geyser colorway. So of course I had to hop on that immediately, and I bought yarn to make another Felix with Stroker Geyser as the Surrey, and then it's Batten Yokel for the worsted weight yarn. And together with the Stroker's Geyser, it's just gonna be beautiful. It's gonna give a very different vibe from the Felix, this Felix, because this one's pretty dark and moody, with it being a like really navy blue with all that variegation in it. So even though it's gonna be the same pattern, the vibes will be completely different. And I've seen a lot of people modify this pattern by like taking out the eyelets, adding length, taking away length, doing short sleeves, quarter sleeves, the long sleeve option. So I'm really excited to kind of play around with this pattern. Super stoked about this sweater. I feel like I'm gonna wear it all the time. And I think it's mostly addicting because of how fast it flies off your needles. Highly recommend the pattern. I will definitely be knitting at least another one, if not more than that. I think it really depends on how this sweater fits after I block it. I knit the size 4, and that's gonna give me about 6 inches of positive ease, I believe. So I think it'll fit me perfect. In the pictures of the pattern, the neckline is a little more open than I personally would like, but based off of when I've tried this sweater on, it actually fits me pretty like nice and tight the way I like my sweater collars to fit. So when I block it, I'm gonna try to make sure to keep that nice and cinched. I also have some elastic thread that I can kind of weave in through the collar if needed to kind of like keep its form and keep it from stretching out too much. But we'll see what it looks like after blocking. And I'm sure this will be a finished object by next episode, and I will probably be wearing it because I feel like I'm gonna live in this sweater. The fabric is so soft. The color is beautiful. Like, this is basically like a dream sweater that I didn't even know I was dreaming about until I swatched for it. So I apologize to my husband because when I should have been working on his sweater, I was working on one for me. So I told myself that I am not allowed to cast on any other projects until this sweater's finished and his sweater's finished. We'll see if I stick to that because I did buy more yarn for a new project, but that's fine. I have self-control, guys. I have self-control. Even though the people at Knit Night might not agree with you because I told myself I wasn't gonna buy the yarn and I bought the yarn anyway. But I'm not gonna cast it on until I'm done with my sweater and his sweater. Swear, I swear. Hold me to it, you guys. Hold me to it. The other whip that I talked to you guys about last episode was the Doppio Pullover by Seunghee Hong. And I was talking to you guys about how I was a little unsure of the color combination slash bases that I chose in those colors. I was a little unsure of the choices I made. So I loved the colors. I think I was just a little thrown by how prominent that blue Surrey was. Here's the swatch as a reminder. It's beautiful, don't get me wrong. I think I just wasn't anticipating the high contrast marl I was getting. I didn't think the Surrey was going to come through so prominently. And I was sitting here talking myself into the project because I had already bought the yarn for it. And I really loved this, how soft it was and the fabric, but the more I looked at it and the more I thought about it, I was like, I'm really trying to convince myself to like the colors and combination that I picked out. And someone commented on the last video and said, if you really liked it, you would have probably cast it on the project by now. And clearly that is true, considering I immediately cast it on the Felix with the Freshwater Mussels colorway. So I decided to set this aside, and then, of course, in true Explorer Knits fashion, because I need to buy everything they make ever, they announced their re-dye of the Icelandic collection, and they were putting together Doppio kits, which is exactly what this pattern is for. So I was watching through some of their lives, and they were like going through different color combinations for Doppios. They also were selling Doppio kits that they put together with samples that they have knit. One of the colorways that they're re-dyeing is Skogafoss, which is a navy color on the Surrey with like these purple threads through it almost. And I think that was what I was going for originally. So I decided, I also bought one of the kits. I bought Allie's version, which was a really beautiful, higher contrast marl, but she also uses Skogafoss as the Surrey, so it kind of blends out that high contrast marl, so it's not as intense. And I loved that. And Skogafoss is a similar color to Catch of the Day, which is like this navy color that's in here, but it's different. It's a little deeper and it has that purple through it. So I think what I'm gonna do is I bought the Skogafoss Surrey separately, and I'm going to use that in this Doppio because I think it'll blur out that high contrast marl that's going on with the botanicals and the Catch of the Day. I do plan on keeping the blue spirulina Surrey, which is like this super blue color, because I love it. I really do. I just don't think I love it with the high contrast marl in this situation. I think what I should have done originally was gotten the blue spirulina in the Donnelly sock and then the Catch of the Day in the Surrey. I think that would have achieved the look I was going for, because it would have been a high contrast marl, but the navy neutral of Catch of the Day as a Surrey would have kind of blurred it a little bit. So, but what can you do now? Unfortunately, that means this project is going to have to go into hibernation until I get my Icelandic order, which isn't gonna be until April, which is totally fine. I would rather do that than cast on this sweater and then absolutely hate it, or finish the sweater, never wear it, like just waste my time, not enjoy it, and like not put the yarn to good use. So, this is just gonna go in hibernation. I do kind of have an idea already for what to use this Surrey for. I have really pretty skeins in my stash from Cozy Cauldron Fiber Co. It's her Night Court colorway. I have 3 of them. And I'm thinking that this blue Surrey will look really, really good with those skeins, just because there are some pretty blues and purples in that colorway. And I might make like an Alex hood from Knitting for Olive, potentially, or the Josie hood. I've been really loving the hood trend that's been going on lately, just because I find that wearing a hat and like a nice chunky scarf is a lot for me personally. So I think that combination of the hood with the scarf will kind of give me that good middle ground, and they're just really, really cute. And I think it would be really fun to knit. I love a good bold color and an accessory. So maybe that'll be a cast on in the near future, so that way the blue spirulina still gets to shine, but in a project that it would suit better than this one with the colors that I had chosen. I appreciate everyone who chimed in and kind of helped me realize that maybe this wasn't the path for me. And that just goes to show that sometimes you buy yarn with a plan and then the plan don't work because you swatch and you're like, oh, this is not really my vibe. So I thought I was pushing myself out of my comfort zone, but I just didn't like it. And I didn't want to knit a whole sweater and then never wear it. So, because this yarn is not cheap, and it deserves to go into a project that I will A, enjoy knitting, and B, enjoy wearing and using. And that highlights the yarn that I purchased. So, this Doppio will be going into hibernation, but come April, EKF is actually going to be hosting a Doppio knit along because of all the kits that they curated for their launch of the Icelandic redye. So I will probably be knitting this one and also the Ali's version Doppio for the kit that I purchased as well. So I will have two Doppios eventually in the next year, but just not for a couple months. So I don't have a lot of FOs for you guys actually, because I have been sweater knitting, which is a commitment in time usually, but I do have 2 finished objects to share with you. They are the same pattern. It was what I was going to show you guys last week and then promptly forgot. So those are the Oxbow socks by Andrea Mowry. This was the first time that I participated in her like Thanksgiving, like knit a pair of socks in a long weekend challenge. I can't remember the actual name of the challenge, but it was the first time I actually participated in it. And I was knitting a pair for me, and then my husband was like, oh, hey, those are like really cute, and like, what if you like knit a pair for me? And of course I said I would, because I love him and he loves his hand knit socks and he wears them all the time. So I will show you my pair first. As you can see, I have definitely worn them. There we go. Super pretty, super beauty, super pretty. This is from a Homespun House. This is a sock set that I purchased a while ago. I believe it is the Hibernate sock set, and the contrasting color I think is just like a steel, blue steel colorway, but it's this really beautiful like green variegated speckled yarn. And I feel like because of the light color, it looks really beautiful with the texture on the Oxbow socks. And you can see there's already some felting on the heel because I wear these constantly. These are the socks that I mentioned where I knitted them on the size 0 needles. I still kept the like medium adult size stitch count, which I think is either 64 or 60. Somewhere around there in the pattern. And they're still a smidge too big. So that's why for the vanilla socks that I'm knitting on from Tiny Human Knits with that yarn, I am on the size 0, but I also went down a size. So I'm curious to see if that's finally gonna give me the fit for the knitted socks that I'm looking for. But these are very, very close and I wear them all the time. I really love them. I think they turned out great. This is a really cute pattern too. I love a good little textured sock. Really, really love them. I love the color a lot. Obviously, green is my favorite color, and obviously, I love a good variegated speckled yarn. After finishing those for myself, I casted on the pair for Cameron. I could only find one of them, but same Oxbow sock, but in this really beautiful like red color. This is Favorite Flannel. It's also a sock set from a Homespun House that I purchased a while ago. I don't know the name of the contrasting colored minis that came in this set. It just said Favorite Flannel, but it's this really pretty chocolatey brown color, which I did for the contrasting little like color pop at the cuff. And then there was a second mini included, and it was a very similar green to my socks, but just like a little deeper, as you can kind of see. And it was this really pretty like chartreusey green. And Cameron loves these. Again, I can't remember. I think I did 64 stitches for him on the size 0. And he said these are the best fitting socks that I've made him, and he wears them all the time. You can kind of see the felting on the heel. There's like cat hair and stuff on the bottom of them. Like, he's worn the absolute crap out of these, and I love that. I need to write this information down so I know. As a knitter, you start to learn like your magic numbers for sweaters, and like I don't pay attention. I just like knit the pattern and I'm like, oh, this one looks great. And I don't like pay attention to anything that I did. And I need to do that so things fit me better. But so it's good to know that because of my gauge, I sized down for Cameron in needle size and in the sock size. So I believe this is a 64 count. He really loves the way that these fit. He wears them all the time. But those are my only finished objects since I last talked to you guys, again, because I've been either sweater knitting or had a million stitches on for the Attune shawl. The Attune shawl also takes forever because it's brioche and half fisherman's rib, so you're essentially knitting every row twice. So it takes twice as long, in my humble opinion. So that's all I have for you for finished objects. Next episode, I wouldn't be surprised if that Felix pullover is finished, and fingers crossed that Cameron's Rhue sweater is also finished. And maybe I can pull him into the video so you guys can see it on him. I'm sure he would love to do that. All right, as for spinning, I only have one whip. Well, I guess the actual spinning part is done. That is the braid I got from 316 Dye Studios in the colorway Wooden Ducks, and it's on their Polworth base. So it's officially been plied and washed, flacked and skeined up and measured. So it was 225 strands total on my Nitty Knotty. So it weighed 116 grams total and approximately like 460 yards. I don't know how accurate that is because when you're wrapping it on the Nitty Knotty, it does there's some tension on it. So you can't really measure the Nitty Knotty and then do the math and get yourself an exact measurement. And I tried laying the big loop out and kind of measuring it that way, but that's not really accurate either. So I'm thinking it's gonna be anywhere between 360 to kind of 460 yards right now. I think it should be plenty to knit the Harlow hat that I was planning on knitting with it. The knit along for that Spin It to Knit It Harlow hat that emtothethird was hosting with a couple other YouTubers has finished. The deadline was January 31st. And again, because my noggin was like, hey, you know what you don't want to work on? That. You don't want to work on that. You want to work on your Felix pullover instead and only work on that, which was not the responsible thing to do. But it's fine, guys. I got it washed, I got it thwacked, I got it skeined up, I got the schematics and everything, and I got it caked up. And she looks beautiful. He is really, really excited. There's definitely still a good variation in thickness throughout the skein. I'm still working on consistency. This has really only been like, I wanna say like my 5th spin. So I'm still kind of working on consistency, especially because I didn't just sit down and spin this from from beginning to end. So I feel like that might also have something to do with it. But there are definitely parts that are like a fingering weight. And then there are also parts that are probably more of a DK. And of course, like when you knit it and you pull on it, it kind of compresses. So I think I'll be fine to still knit with this. I haven't knit with my hand spun yet. And I think it would be a good experience to do that, to kind of see how it reacts in a fabric. Cameron also is just really excited to have the Harlow hat, and he's always super proud of everything that I make him, and I think he would just be super stoked that my first hand spun knitted project is a hat for him. So it's caked up and ready to go. I will probably get this casted on soon, and I'm really, really excited to see how the color plays out, because I essentially just knit it from end to end onto 2 bobbins and then plied it together. But because of the drafting and the variation in thickness, it kind of, the colors didn't exactly line up. And I tried practicing chain plying. I was gonna chain ply this originally to keep the kind of color gradient intact, and it was not a good experience, you guys. I think I just need to find someone to physically show me how to chain ply, because I tried to watch a video and it did not end well for me at all. So, but yeah, I think it'll still look really cool. I still think you'll get that really pretty kind of color gradient as well. So hopefully by next episode, I will have this casted on and we can see the experiment together. Super excited to finally knit with my hand spun, and hopefully my consistency gets a little bit better. But I know that's also one of the beautiful things about hand spun, is the slight inconsistency throughout it. So super excited to get this knitted on, and it's all ready to go. So time for acquisitions. This was the yarn that I told you that I bought recently, and I'm forcing myself not to cast on the project. I think something that I have learned about myself is that I am very much a vibe knitter. I cast things on based off of being like inspired by a pattern, inspired by the yarn specifically, or like what's kind of trending right now in like the knitting community. I am very influenceable, if you will. And of course, Andrea Mowry released her new shawl pattern this weekend, which is the Thru line shawl, and I was immediately obsessed. I also go to knit nights at Starlight every Wednesday, and guess what that means? Being surrounded by yarn for 2 hours and like having to force yourself not to look at it, and I can't do that. And they carry the suggested yarn in the pattern. So of course I told myself, I'm just gonna go window shopping. We're just gonna plan out the colors we wanna use, and I'm with other knitters, so you know what they do? They influence you to buy the yarn. They also help you kind of figure out what colors you want to do. So let me show you the yarn that I purchased. It was really funny because we all worked together to figure out what we wanted to do, what I wanted to do. And then I came back with the yarn and be like, I bought it. And Max, who was sitting next to me at the time, looked at me and she was like, I had no faith in you. We all knew, girl. There was no not buying yarn. We all knew that as soon as you decided what you wanted, that you were gonna buy the yarn. And they were correct. So let me show you what I chose. So the suggested yarn in the pattern is Brooklyn Tweed Loft, which is a fingering weight wool and spun yarn, as well as Spincycle's Dyed in the Wool, which is their sport weight color changing gradient yarn. For my main color, I chose Postcard, which is this really beautiful, like gray purple heathered situation that I love. Dyed in the Wool that I chose is this colorway. There we go. So good. It's called Pick Your Poison. Super beautiful together. And then for the little like cross stitching that happens when you incorporate the Dyed in the Wool, I chose this, woo, which is flannel. I think it's gonna look so good. It's definitely more of a low contrast situation. Cameron did bring up a good point that this, the Dyed in the Wool, might get a little lost because of the gray blue that happens in here. But I think it might be fine. It's gonna give more of a neutral kind of situation. And I think this pop of blue with that cross stitching, it looks a lot darker on the camera than it actually is. It is looking a little darker on the camera, but I think this will look really good. And I think what I'll do is I'll start working on the project when I do eventually cast it on. And if these two are too close together and the dye in the wool gets a little lost, what I can do is switch to have this flannel blue color be my main color, and this be the dye in the wool, so that way it kind of pops out a little bit more, and then this be the kind of cross stitch situation. So we'll have to play with it. I did buy 3 of the postcard colorway for it to be my main color, so that's kind of where I'm leaning. I think the neutral vibe will be gorgeous. But if the dyed in the wool is lost when I get kind of am knitting through it, what I can do is always go back to the yarn store and exchange 2 of the postcard for 2 of these, and then kind of flip the script and we'll see what happens. Because this is like a denim-y blue color almost, so I feel like it'll still kind of give a neutral vibe. So we'll see, but that is my plan. And I'm super excited. So as I said, I am impressionable. Seeing everyone's projects just has me really, really inspired. So I bought the yarn. I am not gonna let myself cast it on though until I finish my sweater and I finish Cameron's sweater. And then we can kind of do the experiment together and see how we like the colors working together. I think it'll still be really great because this dyed in the wool has a lot of like purples and browns and the blues, which I still think will kind of hold up against this. It'll just be a softer contrast. So we'll have to see. We'll play with it when we get there, but super excited about this. Okay, that's all I have for acquisitions. So let's get into some life stuff. I am still doing a lot of reading right now. I am working through Jennifer L. Armentrout's From Blood and Ash series. I just finished the 4th book, which is War of Two Queens. Wild ending, my friends, super wild. I won't go into it because I don't think I can talk about it without spoiling it if you haven't read it or plan to read it. But I'm still waiting for the 5th and final book of that series to come in through my library. So I started reading the prequel series to the From Blood and Ash, which is I think Flesh and Fire. I think that's what the name of the whole series is called. The first book is called A Shadow in the Ember. It is about the First Maiden and Niketos from like centuries before Poppy and Cass. And I'm not super deep into it. I think I'm only about 20% of the way through the book. It's giving very similar vibes, so I'm not surprised. A coworker of mine who I actually suggested the series to and caused me to reread it said they were so good. So I'm really excited to get into the prequels because I've not read any of the prequels. So this will be a brand new exposure for me. But apparently you do get a lot of good information from the prequels that helps From Blood and Ash to make sense. So I'm really excited to finish reading those. I'm really, really close. Once I finish the From Blood and Ash series, I do plan to dive deep into the Brandon Sanderson Cosmere, which is like the Mistborn, Stormlight Archives, that whole like 17 book breakdown universe, which is going to be an undertaking. But I've heard really great things. I've already read the first Mistborn book. It is so good. The 2nd book actually just came available from my library, which I'm going to have to reschedule the hold because I want to finish From Blood and Ash first before I dive into a whole nother universe. Once I'm in a series, I'm usually like in that series until I finish it. So I will let you know how Jennifer L. Armentrout's books go for me, and we'll go on a Brandon Sanderson Cosmere undertaking together when I get there. As for what I'm watching, I am still grinding through Critical Role's Campaign 2 on YouTube. It is so good. I really love watching Critical Role. I'm brand new to D&D for the most part. I'm only in my 2nd campaign, and it's like a little baby campaign. So it's a lot of fun to watch people who are like super experienced in the game play together and just have a good time. The storytelling is great. The characters are great. It essentially feels like it's a show on its own, as if it was like an animated show. I think I'm on episode 36 and there's like 100 of them. So each episode is 3 to 4 hours long. So it's gonna be a while before I finish it, but loving it so far. Really, really enjoy it. I highly recommend if you are interested in D&D or have like a curiosity about D&D. Even if you don't, like watching it is super fun. So other than that, we are watching The Mentalist, me and my husband. We just started season 2. So we are really, really enjoying it. It's very much a like true crime meet Sherlock kind of vibe because the main character, Patrick Jane, is a consultant and he's a mentalist, which like he says he can read minds, but really all he's doing is using deductive reasoning and psychology. So it very much feels like if like Criminal Minds and Sherlock Holmes had a baby. That's kind of what it feels like. So super great on that too. I think there's only like 3 seasons, so we should be finishing that up pretty soon. We usually watch an episode or 2 a night while we're eating dinner. So can't wait to update you guys on the development of that. I'm also open to some show suggestions. I feel like we're kind of hitting a dry spell when it comes to shows, especially because of like streaming services and everything going on with that. So if you have any suggestions of a good like drama or thriller or true crime show or like fantasy, anything you think would be my vibe, definitely drop it down in the comments below because we are looking for something new to watch. All right guys, that's all I have for you today. This episode is about 2 weeks out from the last one, and I'm hoping to stay consistent now that the holidays are over. Life hopefully will be calming down soon, so hopefully I'll be more consistent and more present here on YouTube. Hopefully I'll have a new cast on for you guys next week and 2 finished objects. So if you guys liked this video, feel free to give it a like and a thumbs up, as well as hit that bell icon so you guys get any notifications for when I post in the future. Thank you all for stopping at my little crafty corner of YouTube and sharing your time with me today. See you next time. Bye.